Hey there, I'm Kevin.
And I'm Jamie, and we're your co-hosts for Two Clicks in a Pod.
Join us as we explore our missed times, stories, and memories due to divorce and a 1,000-mile separation.
I can't wait. You ready to get into it, Kev?
I am. Hey, Jamie, you think they're going to swear?
Oh, yeah. Consider yourselves warned. 1, go.
Here we go.
Blast off. Oh, I wanted to,
Welcome to the show.
welcome to the big show. I wanted to,
99.5, here we are live.
Is this 15?
99.5, The Wolf.
Is that station still around?
Yeah, I listened to it when I was in Dallas this past week.
Yeah?
Yep.
How was Dallas?
It was good once I got there. It was a hard trip getting there. Yes.
In the bus, you mean?
In the bus. I post those kind of
one
video.
Posted one video.
Posted one video. I've got 2, 3, and 4 yet to drop. But yeah, it kind of documents the disaster that began right after video 2, which is outside of Little Rock. But anyway, we can talk about that.
I want to hear about that. At first, I need a little bit of a visual. Visual's not the right word, but so driving from Nashville to Dallas.
Yes.
How long of a drive is that? 10 hours,
well,
right? Roughly.
Well,
10?
to Dallas it is. So I was breaking it up. My original intent was to stop in I thought Little Rock, which Little Rock is about about 5 hours from Nashville. So
right.
A good stopping point. I left bright and early. I was on the road by 7:30 and running through Little Rock around 12:30. So 5 hours to that point.
And then you need a break. Why do you need a break after 5 hours of driving? Is it just driving that large of a vehicle is just that taxing when you're by yourself? And I say this because I know you're able to drive more than 5 hours in a day.
Yeah, I would drive 8 hours in a day, 12 hours in a day. That's not the problem. It is taxing, more taxing when people are actually in the bus than not in the bus. Just like flying the helicopter was more taxing when it was full with you guys in the helicopter versus just me in the helicopter. Well,
yeah. I was a great co-pilot.
Well, the problem is with everybody wearing headsets in the helicopter and everybody's wanting to carry on conversations that you're missing the conversations that are more important between traffic control and
the other aircraft.
The other aircraft, yes.
Were you not able to though in that situation? Couldn't you just put your headphones on that? But I feel like we could go to our own. I don't know if channel is the right word.
No, you wouldn't go to the channel. There was just a mute out the other microphone. So you could mute it out. It's kind of like when you turn, when you're sitting in the house right now, people are hearing me out in the living room talking on this podcast. So it's not that you don't hear the noise, but, and everybody's moving in their seats. I mean, you're jammed into just a small area and there's not the luxury of getting up and walking around. You have to sit still. So
sure. I do love that you say that people are in the house listening. And by people, you mean a single person.
Now we got Link's out there doing his tutoring for his reading as well.
You do? Oh, okay. So you actually do have another human being besides Suzanne.
I do. Link's here. So, and he's been hammering and I think I mentioned last time he bragged about his report card and he had gotten almost all A's except for one, which was an 89, 1 point short. But he's doing very well. His mother reached out again end of last week and said how well he's doing in school. So that's good. That's a plus for him.
That's great for Link. Is it short for Lincoln or his name is actually Link?
It's Lincoln.
I like that name.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good.
Seems like I've heard a lot of Lincolns by name since meeting Link. Yep. So it is kind of a cute name.
I do like it. Okay. So, all right. So sorry. I like to digress. So 5 hours to Little Rock. You get to Little Rock.
Right.
What happened in Little Rock?
Well, nothing happened in Little Rock, but I made the decision to 5 hours seemed a little short, so I was going to go ahead and get closer to Texas. And I said, let me research and stop and get a campground or a pull off spot in Texarkana. That would get me. That would be, an hour and 20 minutes from the lake
Yeah.
in Mount Vernon, or on into Rockwall would be another hour and 20 minutes. So it would leave about 2.5 hours if I was going to stay Friday night, which was the original intent, and then just get up and drive Saturday morning and get it straight into Rockwall, where Shane and Haley were going to be coming through and pick me up. They were not getting in after us strategizing this game plan, though, until like almost 6 o'clock that night. So there would be no hurry for me to really get into Rockwall at 8, 10 o'clock in the morning. So I went ahead and decided, I said, well, let me see how that goes. It went fine. I kind of foreshadowed the disaster of the event in the second video that I will post after this taping. But so
Recording.
yeah. Oh, we don't have tape anymore, do we? But anyhow, so I decided to just push on through to the lake.
Back up from your microphone a little bit. You're getting really loud. Back up.
Okay. So, well, you can tell I've got apprehension and anxiety here from the whole experience. But anyhow, so I decided to go onto the lake. I texted Dan Brummer to see if they were going to be at the lake for the weekend. And if they said yes, I was going to go on in. If they said no, I was just going to pull out and hang about in Texarkana for, early afternoon, late afternoon, early evening. Yeah. I mean,
what a place.
Yeah. So I decided, he said, yeah, they were there. I said, okay, well, I'm going to push on through. I'm in the bus headed that way, and I will see you around 5. They were getting out there at 3. So on we go on my merry way. Everything's rocking and rolling. We're making good time, running that sucker, running it hard, was pulling the Gladiator behind it. Figured I needed that when I was in Dallas, when Shane was not going to be there. Once they were gone, I would need a vehicle to get around and hang out for the rest of the week. So just pushing, cross through Texarkana. Everything's fine. Bus is running great. I had an issue midsummer when I went to Mom's and had broken alternator belts. I don't know if you remember that story, but we haven't talked about it here on the podcast, but had thrown some power. The alternator was not charging the batteries, made it home, got through that, had that repaired. So I'm about 30 miles outside of Mount Pleasant, just going through that green countryside where you got the big Tex trailer farms, or the trailer operations, going on.
Oh yeah.
And
coming up on the yes. I got you.
Yep, just about 16 miles outside of Mount Pleasant, mile marker 178.
Ooh.
Engine light comes on. Actually, it was about 5 miles ahead of that. This engine light comes on. I look down and I see the temperature gauge of the bus approaching the red zone.
Going hot.
And so I said, oh, shit. I said,
you throw the heat on then? Isn't that the trick? You throw your heat on?
Yeah, that works for a car. I don't think that works for a 600 horsepower Caterpillar engine. But,
all right. I had to do that in the Civ once, but keep going. Okay.
It's funny you asked that, because that actually came up in a 911 phone call shortly thereafter. So I'm going on down the road, and I'm just watching it and seeing it, and it's just kind of hovering there, and I slow it down, and it backs off, comes out of the zone. But as soon as it gets into the red, it's got to stop. It's got a stop engine light. The engine light goes red, and then there's a stop button right below it.
All right.
And I say, okay, we've got coolant issues. So anyway, by the time I pull over, it gets to hot, and then the whole engine just shuts off. It just shuts down.
No. Did you pull over like on an exit, or you just pulled over on the side of the road?
Well, I had no option. It wasn't running. I just pulled over on the side of the road, got
All
off
right.
to the side of the road, threw on the flashers right there on the highway. And I was probably, I don't know, I could see exit 178, which had an off ramp and at least could get me off the highway. So I went to the back, see what the heck was going off in the rear compartment, got it open, was dialing my 911 call to Brandon Holsey, who was the technician that has worked on my bus in Rockwall.
Oh, okay.
And
Not
this
actual
guy is
911, but your RV 911.
my RV 911 to talk
Okay.
to Brandon. It's called a cell phone.
Mm-hmm.
It was a little bit right around 4:00. And he answers the phone, which he normally does. He knew I was coming into town to get this warranty work done. Well, there's more work to do. So
Was a
anyway,
warranty for your engine? Did you
no.
okay? So
Warranty
it
was unrelated. It's more of the Crestron home what's the right word?
I don't know.
Home audio visual.
Oh, okay. So
The controller that actually
nothing
controls
mechanical.
nothing
you really
mechanical,
need.
just stuff that's bells and whistles.
I was just gonna
So
say they would call those bells and whistles. Look at
that's
that.
right. They would.
Great
Yep.
minds.
Bells
Great
and
minds.
whistles.
Okay, keep going.
So anyway, I go to the back. Sure enough, I see a belt hanging off the bottom of the bumper. So
Oh, okay.
that's the same indication that I had the last time a belt's broken. It likes to throw those. Usually they'll come out the bottom. So I open up the back compartment and there is rubber everywhere. I mean, just where the belts had disintegrated and let go.
Okay.
Actually, some of the same belts that had been repaired, therefore questioned the repair job previously done in Nashville, which totally ended up being a spot on rigged element of a belt that probably didn't fit that they tried to make. Anyway, another story of that, but it was not done as appropriately or properly as it should have been. So one of those belts, but the belt that caused the engine to overheat was 3 cooling belts. You've got 2 pulleys and 3 belts of the same size that work from a pulley off the engine that takes the pulley and circulates this huge bladed fan up against the oil cooler in the back of the bus.
Okay.
So the fan had stopped rotating.
Got it.
So the belts were laying everywhere. And I said, well, hell, this is good. This is great. Here we go. You know, I'm actually 45 minutes away from Mount Vernon, and I've got to deal with it right now. So I let the bus cool, talk to Brandon. He kind of walks me off the edge. And I said, okay, I can handle this.
Do you have backup belts? Is that something that you would?
No.
Okay.
It is something I discussed in the last repair. I said, I don't ever want to not have an extra set of belts. That was one of the instructions, knowing that they had to just go to a parts store. They did not go back to Prevo or they replace belts with just parts store belts, Napa or whatever. They found
you don't have
belts
to go to the manufacturer.
You don't have to, no.
So
anyway, that's what I ended up doing as well. I had to go on a shopping venture. So I let the engine cool. I started it back up. It ran for a period of time until it got hot again, which got me down to the actual exit zone got me up on the off ramp to where I made the inspection. So I was able to run it maybe 500 yards and got off on not far.
But in a safer position. Yeah.
And in a safer position.
Right.
There was one belt remaining that had been thrown, but not totally broken.
Oh.
So Brandon walked me through how to repair that, which was really kind of cool. The belts, I don't know if you probably have never changed an alternator belt. I can't imagine that you would have, but
First of
it's a
all,
pain
first of
in the
all,
ass.
no, obviously,
Okay.
no. Now, what I'm seeing in my mind, this is what I'm seeing.
Oh, I've got pictures. I'll show you.
Well, but
I'll
this is
share
just
those.
imagine right now. Let's just keep this to a very level, like low level, because people are probably like, whatever. But in my mind, what I'm seeing is a bicycle chain being thrown.
Mm-hmm.
And in my mind, you're having to, like on the old 10 speed, you had to pull the lower piece forward to get the slack to then wrap it around to get it
Good
back on.
call.
So
Yep.
that's what I'm seeing in my head. Am I
Good.
close?
Good comparison. Very good comparison.
Okay. All
Yes.
right.
Yes.
Okay. But
And on a car belt, I mean, normally what you have to do is you loosen up the alternator head, and it will rotate,
so you can
and
pull
then
it.
you put the belt on, and then you have to pull it and pry it back to get tension on it,
Sure,
and then you
sure.
tighten it back up. And getting
Got
the
it.
it's a two-man job.
But
It's just
you're by yourself.
yeah, but
You could have called Brummer.
but well, I did call him, but not till I had it figured out. So yeah, this thing's kind of cool that they set it up. And you think about these buses that run tours all over the country with bands in them.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
carry it, and I talked to a couple guys, and they carry extra water pumps. They just carry belts galore. They carry extra electronics, that they need. Anything that can go, you don't want the shitter going bad when you're running down the road with six guys in the back of it. You got to have,
Obviously.
all extra parts. And these guys are trained to flop and switch them out in a matter of just, whatever it takes, but not they set them up so that they can remove these parts and put them back in pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So on the belt exchange, I mean, the engine is huge, and the fan the thing that was rotating, the pulley that was rotating the fan is what actually moves, but what holds it away is compressed air. So the bus rides on an air suspension, there's air throughout, and so all you had to do was flip a little switch, a little valve switch, and it took the air off of that device, and then it just automatically folded to where you could get supposedly a new belt on, that it would compress, allow you to
Okay.
put the new
To put the
and then
belt on.
and then you switch it back, and then it airs back up and it springs apart and it tensions the belt.
So
All on
making it not as hard for one person to do.
the only thing that's hard is to get the freaking belt over the spindles, So think about that. The belt that was still there, it had stretched, it had been used. I was able to get it back on. So I put it on, and I got back in the bus, turned it on, and ran it for another few miles to where it heated up again. I'm
saying,
running
because
on one belt.
You're still down two belts. Okay. So you
Two
got
belts.
one going, you're down two. Okay.
And I think if the belt had been in good shape, it probably would have gotten me there. And I say this because of just foreshadowing the story to continue.
Oh my God, there's more?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It gets me down to a point to where at least I'm on. I can get the engine goes hot.
But you're
It's
off
running
on 178 now. Now you're off the exit.
I'm off of the exit. I'm running down the highway. I'm running probably 5 more miles, or I run to the next point where the engine goes hot.
Yeah.
And when the engine went hot again, I knew the belt had failed.
Right.
So it fails. I'm coasting. I'm able to get down off on an exit, and I'm coasting down on the exit. And when the engine turns off, the power steering does not operate. You can't steer the bus.
Oh my God, Dad.
You've never heard the first story of me buying the first bus and bringing it from Florida. Same shit happened. Anyway, on my inaugural trip. So this goes on, and I'm coasting down, and I'm coming to a stop sign, and they're repaving that off ramp and then the on ramp, and there's those big orange, not not the conical cones, but the barrel cones,
Oh yeah.
that
Oh
are
yeah.
that are sitting there,
And they're
and
full of
there's
water,
no,
right?
well, who knows? Normally they're
Okay.
supposed to be, but these were pretty easy to move.
Okay.
But so I'm going down there, and I mean these barrels are all along the side. There's no way I can get off the ramp, so I just keep it rolling to the ramp. There's car coming from the left, and then I can see a car from the right, and I just blast my
Har-
horn, and
Oh
that
my
sucker,
God.
it rolls through that intersection and then off, and I'm about 3/4 of the way full, and the Jeep's out there in the middle, and I said, "Oh, come on, just give me another push." And then
Push.
there's a gap in the cones, and I was able to hard steer it to the right, and I was able to get that bus up and off on the area that had been where they had ground the asphalt off, and
Okay.
behind the series of cones. So I had it in a safe place. And I said, "Well, great. I can just camp here for the night. I don't know what I'm going to do about it right now." I had Brandon back on the phone 2 and 3 times. By 6:05, I had tried putting the belts back on. I tried to MacGyver it as best I could. Nothing was working. They were all torn to shreds. And I said, "Screw it." I said, "Brandon, I'm just locking it up. I'm going to,
Get in the
you know,
Jeep.
get in a Jeep." I called Dano. I said, "I'm headed your way. The bus is on, at exit 168 at that time,
Oh,
and I'm leaving it. So I will see you in a bit." He called me actually at 5 o'clock, and he said, "When are you getting here?" I've got a disaster here. I threw belts. The bus is down on the side of the highway. I'm trying to see if I can get it able to limp home. So at 6:05, the sunset starts going down about 6:30. I said, "Screw it, Brandon." I said, I got a place to stay. I can go stay with Dan. I will figure it out in the morning. I threw the belts in the back of the Jeep, and I said, "I'll just get up in the morning. I'll get me some comfort food. I'll get me a nice breakfast." But
where'd you go to breakfast?
IHOP there
Huh.
in Mount Pleasant. Yeah. So did that. And then I hit the parts stores. Saturday morning, I was in a parts store at 8 o'clock. And I was able to take one of the belts that the guy was able to at least
Size it.
determine
Yeah.
that it was 78 inches in length. And it was a B75 belt, heavy duty, 5/8 inch wide, 3/4 inch in height belt, but he only had the B74 belt.
Oh, for the
So
love of God.
I know it. So I knew that there was something out there. So I went next door to O'Reilly's.
Oh,
There was like
O'Reilly's.
there was 4 parts store within about half a mile range there by the Walmart and the Home
Oh,
Depot.
God.
So O'Reilly's could get me one and have it there by noon. And I said, "Well, how can you have it there by noon?" And he says, "It's in Texarkana." And I said, "Well, shit, I could just get to the bus so they can throw it at me on the way by." On the way by, he said, "No, they won't do that." Well,
Did you
I said,
tell him to
"Okay."
give you 3 extra too? Like, I hope you bought extra.
They only had one in stock.
Unbelievable. But you,
So
okay.
I said, "Wait a minute." I said, "Wait a minute. Let's hold off on that." He said, "No, let me go ahead and order it. If you don't find one, it'll be here at noon." And I said, "Okay, good enough." So I go to the next store. Next store was Advance Auto. They couldn't even figure out what belt
What
I
a,
needed, which me telling him it was a B75. Their numbering scheme was not the same.
they're
So
like,
I
we
went
don't
to
even know what an RV is.
I went to ABC Parts, which is just 2 stores down from there. They had another one. They had one.
Ooh, that makes
They
2
had one. And this is so funny. It's a $33 part. I mean, just to think it shuts the whole bus down for
for
$33.
33. Well, you know what? It could be worse though, Dad. This is all looking up, in my opinion.
Oh, it was. I was so excited. And I said, "Can you get me one more? I don't think I need 3, but if I could put 2 on there, I'd feel good." And he called the Pittsburgh store,
Oh,
Pittsburgh,
yeah.
Texas,
Yeah, I
the
love
home
it.
of Wetzel. But anyway, so sure enough, they had one in Pittsburgh. So I
Damn.
grabbed that one, prepaid for it, went down to Pittsburgh, 10 miles further south, turn around, come back. By 11 o'clock in the morning, I'm at the bus to put these belts on.
But you still got to go pick up your extra at 12 o'clock at O'Reilly's.
No, I didn't pay for it. So he said, don't worry about it. If it's I'll use it. So I was good to go. So I just went there.
But I thought we talked about you're going to start carrying an extra.
Oh, I was just worried about getting it to Rockwall at this point.
Dad,
we will have extra belts on the bus. So yes.
Well, I would hope so. I hope you learned your lesson.
I have an extra one now because I could only get one of them on. It was so difficult to get the first one on that the second one I couldn't get on. And one belt ended up getting me to Rockwall.
Long story long, you get the belts. I mean, let's just regroup on this real quick. I feel like we have to share with people. Mount Pleasant, Texas is not a big place. I mean, it's not a small place, but it's not like a big place.
I think it's got about 10 parts stores, though.
That's my point. I'm like, so for as small as this place is, you had the ability to go to that many auto parts places. It's pretty impressive.
think about the quantity of tractors.
True.
Tractors, pickups, big stuff.
Here's a question. Sidebar, real quick. I want to ask you if you remember the last time. Well, I think we've been back there since, but this was a trip that we made to the Walmart in Mount Pleasant, where you and I looked at each other and we said, "We will never come back here again."
I do remember that.
Do you remember that story? Yep. And this is when I decided I was done with Walmart, unless absolutely necessary. Just for all of those listening. Dad and I go to the Walmart in Mount Pleasant, Texas for a few basic items. It was supposed to be a quick trip. We were there.
Well, Saturday morning was the problem.
Whatever. We were there. Yep. We find a line, not a long line. Remember, we were like, this is great. Pulled in. It's an elderly lady. Not that old, but elder. Mm-hmm. Checks out, and then comes the checkbook. And I looked at you, and I was like, here we go. Writing a check. Well, not only was she writing a check, but she was doing banking transactions. Do you remember that?
Oh, that's right. I do.
She was like writing checks.
Depositing money. Yep.
And cashing checks and writing checks. And I looked at you.
Mail orders to pay bills. Yep.
I mean, I was like, what the fuck is happening here? And I just said, Dad, this is it. We're never doing this again. We're never coming here again. And we were at Walmart, I think, last June.
Well, when that's all you got, that's all you got. Yep, that's true.
Golly. All right, so here's the biggest question I have. Back to the RV situation. And you kind of covered this, but every time I feel like you go on a trip, and you've done quite a few now, you're an experienced, what would you call it?
Oh, yeah.
Are you called RVers? What do you call yourselves? People who RV.
They call them RVers.
RVers.
I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Let's go with that. As an experienced RVer or driver, you have an incident occur, I think, at least every other trip.
Yes, nothing. These are the first instances that on this bus that I've had anything mechanically be an issue on the road. There's things inside. There's the AV type stuff or blinds not operating or.
Okay, so this is your first big mechanical breakdown.
On bus one, it happened, as I said, that was a bigger disaster on my first bus that I bought in Sarasota, Florida, and brought it back to Dallas on the trip home. That was a much bigger nightmare. So, but
nothing against Sarasota, but yeah.
And on this, there's been, this is probably the third time that there's been something that shut me down for a period of time. The first time was actually salvaged in a Walmart parking lot. I
Ooh.
had a 3 amp fuse, a 3 amp bullet fuse. Think about that. A 3 amp fuse. I
That's
mean, you
small.
might as well say a penny
Okay.
compared to, the price of this Prevost bus. I mean, it's a penny compared to, you know, $500,000. It's crazy. So that little son of a bitch right there shut down the whole bus. I mean, there was nothing working electronically. It was a main line that actually, and I say nothing, it would turn on, you could run it, but it was dark and at night and all the lights would
Oh, the
not work.
lights wouldn't work. Oh, wow.
You couldn't get any power inside. The whole interior side of the bus from a power standpoint was dead. And that little sucker had just with age gotten hot and it blew the fuse part right at the cap of that little, the little fuses that
Yeah.
twist together, and
Oh,
it
yeah,
had
yeah.
just blown it up and it was dead. So
No air. No air.
this is 10 o'clock dark. I mean, and I call my 911 guy, Brandon, and Brandon answers his phone.
My God,
And
I
he
want to meet
said,
Brandon.
he's a hero, man. And he tells me, I think you've got a fuse that's blown. And he said, I'll tell you right where it is. And so I'm out there with the flashlight and I'm looking, I'm digging, and by gosh, there it is. You could see where the fuse was outside the case.
Yeah.
And I ran into Walmart, grabbed a pair of wire strippers and a new fuse link, and hardwired it up, put it together, and
Got to Rockwall.
got to Rockwell. That's when I was headed to see Suzanne for the first time. So it continued my trip on towards Kentucky. So
Boy, oh boy.
I was, and that very first trip was very stressful. This trip didn't really stress me out that bad. It's so funny in a video, which
I
we're
think
gonna.
you like the challenge though of being because Dad, I can tell you that would stress 8 out of 10 people out, or 8 out of 10 people. They're going, I'm done with this shit. I don't need to do this anymore. It's just not worth it. But I think you like it.
I take a lot of pride in that. I do, and I told Brandon when I hung up with him that night, I said, I'm going to MacGyver this thing together tomorrow morning. I'm telling you, I'm not letting this defeat me. I've had a great day. I mean, in spite of this, I'm still in a good mood, and I've got a place to stay, got friends to visit. I'll get up in the morning. I'll treat myself to IHOP and away we'll go, and I will find something to happen. And I got that son of a bitch up and running again. And I called him before leaving. I said, I got it fixed. I said, I'm running on 2 belts, getting the second and the third belt just in the order. There was not enough slack. The first belt I had, they had not, it was in its extended length and had relaxed a little bit. It wasn't compressed in a box.
Yeah.
The second belt was double folded and stuck in a box. And it just did not have enough stretch in it. I had him laying out in the sun for a half hour trying to get him to heat up. And I got the first one put on, and I still put that old used one that kind of threw the second time. I put it back on.
Wow.
And drove it into Rockwall, which was an hour and a half drive. And the used belt broke on the way. I didn't even know that. But when I got home and parked it, the one belt was still there. And I've got 2 out of the 3. Look at it that way.
There you go.
And they'll get the other.
What did Brandon say when he saw you?
When he saw me?
Yeah, what did he say?
He just said, he said, he said, dude, 99.99.9% of the owners of the bus of this caliber would have abandoned it, called for a ride, and had it towed in here. But you MacGyvered it. Your words were right. You MacGyvered it. You beat it. You got it in here. You need to take a lot of pride in doing that. And I did. It made my day. It really made my day. So
Dad, you're impressive, Dad. You are impressive.
I was most upset that my white sneakers took a beating
Oh,
of
of course
getting
they did.
dirty.
Here's what I am just beyond impressed with. Number one, that you're still even telling the story. You're like silver linings. You're like, I have good friends to visit. I've got a bed to sleep in. I'm gonna have pancakes for breakfast. I think
Yep.
it's great. You're just silver lining the shit out of it, Dad. It's amazing. Very impressive. I'm proud
Yeah.
of you.
I was
Here's the other thing I noticed. You're calling it, I always thought it was pronounced provost, but I'm saying that wrong. Say it. How do you say it? And this is Prevost.
Prevo.
Prevo.
Yep. The T is silent.
What kind of a word is that?
I don't know. It sounds sounds like kind of Swedish or something, doesn't it?
Right? Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
For the S to be silent,
Mm-hmm.
we should look that up. Well, who manufactures them? Where are they manufactured?
Prevo. Prevo manufactures the
No, but
chassis.
where's Prevo from? Where is Prevo?
I think it's actually from Oregon, but I don't know. I don't know if they. I mean,
Dad, here's a bigger question.
They make them in all different varieties.
Okay, but
so
back to episode 13 when we talked about you establishing all your last will and testaments. I want to be clear.
You don't want the bus?
I don't want the Prevo. I don't think that I don't think anybody should get it, quite frankly. I don't think any one of your children could do it. Do it. I mean, I think Shane probably thinks he could. I don't know. Maybe he would want it. I don't. I'm out. I'm out on the Prevo.
Oh, it says here they're manufactured right down the road in Goodlettsville, Tennessee. I didn't know that. I know where the Prevo store is, but I didn't know they built them there.
You should see if you could go to the warehouse or
hold on.
The
okay, the headquarters are in Saint Clair, Quebec.
Okay, so there you go. French. I was gonna say it sounds like a French word. I was gonna say that. Prevo with the S being silent. Prevo. All right. Well,
so
wow, Dad.
I'm going to conclude that. I want to conclude this story.
Wrap it up.
Every time I was talking to the parts counter guy, they said, "Well, what is this going on?" And I said, "Well, it's going on a Prevo bus." And they said some of them knew what it was, some of them didn't know what it was. And guy at Advance, he looked at me. He's the one that didn't know anything about the F-54, or the F, And he said, Prevo bus. I said, yeah, the tour buses. And he said,
you mean Provost?
No, he said, he goes, who are you driving around in that thing?
Did you just did you make an L and just point at yourself and go, right here?
No, I told him, I said, I can't tell you. I signed an NDA. I can't tell you who it is.
You should have said, I'm driving around the co-host for 2 Clicks in a Pod podcast. Have you ever heard of it?
That's what I should have. That was a good call. Yep.
Yeah. Oh, well. Missed opportunity there, Dad. Well, well, that was a long story, but I'm proud of you. And all that to say, I hope you had a good time in Austin.
Oh, we had a blast. Had a good week in Texas. Yeah.
Update from me. As you were texting me, how's Dallas? And I was telling you, I wouldn't know. I didn't make it there. I did not make it to Dallas. The sickness took me down. So I canceled that trip. I'm looking at going back. I think I'm going to go the week after Reese's birthday, which is like December the 12th or something. I think I'm going to go that week. But I was super bummed because I had to remember I was going to do dinner with Kevin G. Had to cancel that. But that's all right. I'll be back in December. So back into Dallas again. Holly reached out to me. She's like, I hear you're coming to Dallas. I was like, I would have texted you. I actually just canceled the trip yesterday. I'm not feeling well and not about to suffer through an airplane ride and all that. But anywho.
Well, yep. I get to go back to go get the Mojo.
The Prevo.
The Mojo too. Yeah.
You have to go get the Mojo Prevo. Mojo Prevo. Did you ever name that thing? Does it have a name?
It's called Mojo.
Oh, that is the name. That's right. Sorry.
Yeah.
Remind me what that stands for again.
Mobile Office Job Optimizer.
Mobile Office Job Optimizer. Are you happy with that name?
I didn't name it. I just inherited it from Ed Watson. I talked to him the other day, telling him I was going to the game this weekend and thought I'd stop by and say hey when I went through
Oh,
Indianapolis. Yep.
that's right. You guys have the
Are
big.
you are you are you are you traveling this weekend?
No, we have
I thought you were going
Diane's.
to go to
I was going to go to Florida,
Florida.
but we have Diane's funeral service on Friday, so I had to cancel that trip as well. So,
Mm.
yeah,
Well,
not a lot of greatness coming my way, Dad, these days. I'm kind of hanging on by a thread here, just living through a very hectic time in life and hanging on by a thread.
mm,
Mm,
never good.
mm. Yeah,
Mm,
it'll be all right.
mm.
Yeah.
Remember old Carl? Mm.
What, Carl?
The movie Sling Blade.
Oh, yes. We watched that together.
We did.
Yeah. First time ever after I got like ridiculed so many times for never having seen Sling Blade. That's a great movie. All right. Well, by the way, I wanted to tell you, in that blue shirt you're wearing tonight, your eyes are popping.
Yep, that's because I wear that blue shirt.
I know. That's why I just said that.
You usually say that when I'm on here with a blue shirt. So,
It looks good. It makes your eyes
well,
very
thank you.
blue. Very blue.
Yep. Very.
Take the compliment, Dad.
Thank you. It's hard for me to do that,
I don't know. I feel like you take them okay.
I've had to learn how to do that. Yep, it's been tough.
Well, good job. I don't really have a lot to share with you. Like I said, not a whole lot kicking here. I'm living the dream. Just, you know, in the full throes of, can you believe it's November, Dad?
No,
November.
no. Then
Like,
the time change totally sucks. Yep.
yeah. Forgot about that, by the way. I had a little bit of a panic moment on Sunday.
Yeah.
One of those time change panics. It obviously all worked out.
Yeah, we talked about it Sunday, and then I woke up, or we talked about it Saturday coming home.
Yeah.
I had to fly back home. The bus is still there, so I'll have to go back and get it between now and the end of the month. But yeah, that's always a disappointment when that time of year comes. And then I woke up Sunday and forgot all about it. I'm up. Said, "Oh shoot, it's the 8:30." I slept in until it was 8:30. I said, "I never sleep in." So that was yesterday. So then today I'm up at 5:00. Because I normally am up around 6. And
yeah, feeling good though. I feel like I woke up today and I felt like I had a lot of energy and I felt good and I like that. But yeah, this time change things for the birds. I mean, they keep saying they're going to stop doing it, but they keep doing it.
Yeah, they keep doing it.
Keep doing it. We got
I did.
We got the big election tomorrow, so obviously when this is
airing,
we will know. Just think about this: when we listen to this episode in 2 weeks, we will know we're like living in the future right now.
Yeah, it will take 2 weeks. It'll take 2 weeks to sort it out. I bet.
Let's hope that in 2 weeks we know and we have that going for us, right?
We have been thinking about, and I doubt that we get there, but we were talking seriously about it on Saturday, that they're having a election results watching party down at Kid Rock's honky tonk on Broadway.
You should go. I love.
Well,
Kid
that's
Rock.
that's what we were talking about. I'm sure he will show up and be there for sure. Yep.
Ooh, you think he'll be there?
I think so. He's pretty big, staunch supporter of the process for sure.
Good way to handle that, Dad. Way to handle that.
Thanks. Did that right.
You did so well. I'm so proud of you. Well, anyways, I hope everybody voted. I will leave it at that because, again, we're living in the future. So I hope everybody voted. I hope you did your civic duty as an American. It's a very important thing. So with that said, All right. Well, I don't even know how to segue out of that.
Is Segway French?
Oh, hey, and
Oh,
like the French. So I wanted to dive into maybe a hard time period, but we have to touch on it. We have to cover it. This is one of those time periods that led to many people saying, probably to both of us, you guys got to start writing this shit down because you can't make it up. We're heading into that time period.
yeah. You got to quit just living it. You got to live it and write it down. So,
Live it, write
yep.
it down. So I'm going to fast. We talked about being in the future. I'm going to go back. I'm going to Marty McFly it. We're going to go back and back to the the era of Jamie and Chris moving back to Dallas, which happened in 2010. I took a job promotion. We moved back to Dallas together. Chris leaving the state of Pennsylvania, not like he had never left the state, but never living anywhere but the state of Pennsylvania, moving to Dallas, Texas with me. At that time, you and Shelly were divorced.
I
Um,
see.
so when we moved back to Dallas in early 2010, Chris and I, with your help, had bought a condo there off of McComas and Skillman, right?
No, McComas and Matilda.
Matilda. Skillman was the next one up. McComas and Matilda, 5800 McComas Boulevard was the address
Yep.
there. So we were living there right off of Greenville. Great joint, great spot, beautiful condo. Starting what was a big part of my career at Med Trials and reuniting us once again in your post Shelley era. So you're living there at the house on Lano, about, what would you say, Dad? 5 blocks from me, 5 or 6 blocks. It was a half
Uh,
mile, half mile.
Yeah, if that. Yep. That's a
Yeah,
good call.
good call.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to touch on what was then a 2-year period of time. So in 2010, um, we are acclimating, back into the Dallas scene, having a good time, spending time together. You're in your dating scene, but by the time we move back into Dallas, you are primarily dating one person, a much younger lady.
Yeah.
So I will share with our listeners. Dad was dating a woman who, when he did finally introduce her to the kids, we're at this point, we're all living back in Texas, right? I think Kelsey was back for the summer from college, from Rollins, and you introduced us to your girlfriend, who was about 3 years older than me, if I remember correctly.
Yep. She was. Yes. Yes. Yes.
Another blonde.
Yep. Yes. Another
young
blonde.
young blonde.
Yep.
So I had a big, I probably never even told you this, but I would get very worked up. People would talk about your dad's got a new girlfriend. She's really hot. She's good looking. And I would just like get enraged because I was like, she's my age. I could not get over that. It really just worked my nerves. And I say this to people all the time that maybe their parents are getting divorced like at a later age, and they talk about like, oh, well, at least you were older, because at this point, we're adults. And I'm like, no, nobody wants to watch their parents date. It's like the worst thing ever. I think I would rather watch my children date than watch my parents date. Maybe. I don't know. I'm not really having to live through that just yet, but it's not an enjoyable thing, Dad. I will leave it at that. You don't have anything to say?
You've told me that many times. So yes, I
Oh,
mean
have I? Have
that's
I shared that?
yes. Well, that's been kind of the whole story here. I've just you know yeah, it's been a long time of that dating dating time frame. So yes,
Yeah,
I get it. I get it. Was a tough time for sure.
tough time. It was hard. So, I guess what I want to ask is, I'm going to try to consolidate this a bit because we're being careful on people's feelings and this person and all that. So, but it was not a great relationship. This new one you found yourself in. Maybe give me a little background on coming out of the divorce from Shelly. What what do you think at that time was motivating you to jump into what felt like pretty quickly a very serious relationship? And I think that's what was hard. Not that I was upset you were dating. It wasn't about being sad about the separation from Shelly. It just felt very fast. Like this went from nothing to a very serious fast relationship in my from my perspective.
Yeah, I think well that's I think that's a true statement. The other thing that I would say to recollect on or think about is June of '09 is when Shelly and I separated, went our own ways. There was years prior to that time frame that were rocky and in and an issue,
Yeah.
and probably from an issue of almost 9 years when you think about it, moving out to the lake full time in 2000, being out there for Kelsey's 5 years of school, 2005. That was the hard time I know on Shelly being in that, at that setting,
Yeah.
away from Dallas and kind of in more of a rural and a remote area. So there was just a lot of unhappiness there for sure that was trying to be dealt with and covered up and not shown. But from, I think, thinking back on it and looking back on it and everybody seeing back into it, everybody knew it wasn't the best time for the two of us. So it was a it was a actually it was terrible when it went down in that June of 2009. It was very difficult, very hard. You weren't there at that time. So
Mm-mm.
Shane was there.
Mm-hmm.
Kelsey was there. So the three of us were there and at least had that camaraderie. And then good friends, Wally and Michelle, were there. So had enough shoulders to cry upon, I guess. And I mean, it really hit me hard. I mean, just the fact that it was going to happen and that it hit me hard. And to answer your question, seriously getting in that relationship as quickly as it became the fall of '09, which was just a short few months thereafter, June of '09. But it showed that at least I was ready to move on, and
Yeah.
there was, and Shelley was in the same place. So that in itself, um, I think says a lot for regards to that. The other thing, to answer your question, why or what about that? And we brought this up a number of times, and I've made the statement, in it to win it. And that's 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 kind of who I am, or who I'd always been when it you know, came to thinking about that. I didn't and just jumped in way too quick and committed way too quick, threw my heart at it way too quick, and that continues, not only in this relationship, but one after. So
Yeah.
it is I don't know if it's a fault. It's just kind of I feel sometimes I try to always see the best in people. I try not to give up. I try to overlook things, probably, and just don't have my eyes wide open. So you're right. She was very attractive. She was very mature.
Well,
I thought she was, well, she could be. Yeah. She
I
could be at times. Yes. But obviously I was immature as well. So,
I think
um,
this is where I will touch on. I think where it was so perplexing to me as your child, like, is that it just, and this was a person, I'm gonna call her Kelly. I think Kelly meant very well. You know what I mean? I don't think she was a bad person. I think she was someone that longed for family. I think she didn't have a great situation, and she saw you with your children and just how close we all were. And as a lot of people, she wanted to be a part of that. And it, unfortunately, I just think you were kind of being so hurt from what you were coming out of. You were just in this self-preservation mode is the only thing I can articulate to how I would justify it. Is this, yeah, self-preservation, trying to find some happiness, a little bit of ego, a little bit of all these things after what had happened. Because, we're sitting here going, just incident after incident, Dad, this is not good, and you would have things where it wasn't good, but you would go back, and it was just so hard and sad to watch because it was like everyone in your life saw it but you, and we couldn't understand that. We just couldn't. I'll speak for myself. I could not understand that. And it was hard. It was a hard time, for sure. But I mean, I have to tell the story because it's I don't know that I've actually shared some of the funny parts of the story with you. So tell me if you've heard
no,
this.
no.
Because there are funny elements. So we're going to give what was a big monumental event in the McClintock family. This was it had to have been like June. It wasn't 4th of July, I don't think. Doesn't matter. It was the summer of 2010.
May. May. It was Memorial Day weekend.
No, I'm not talking the party. We're going to save the party for
Oh,
another episode.
oh, okay,
This was
okay.
post Memorial Day. It was the summer where it was just the family out at the lake, meaning it was you and Kelly and Kelsey, Chris and I, and Shane and Haley. We were all out for a weekend, and it was summertime, and we had been out on the boat all day. And what we tend to do out at the lake when we're out on the boat all day is drink a lot of beer. So we'd all been drinking
Hmm.
all day. And we are down at the boathouse. It's me, Kelsey, Kelly, and I think you were down there,
Yep,
right? And we're sitting
yep.
around this table under
Well,
in the boathouse. And we're
mm-hmm.
just talking. And what I remember, and you may be able to fill in some of the gaps, is in this, what was a very fine, pleasant exchange, Kelsey ends up getting in a heated conversation or upset about something that Kelly says. And Kelsey, again, all been drinking. Kelsey gets really hot and she stands up and is like just laying in to Kelly. And I finally say, like, all right, just sit down, like kind of looking at Kelsey, like, shut up. This is not going anywhere good. And I'm trying to calm her down. And the next thing I know is I've got a fist flying at my face from Kelly, and she just lays me out. I fall backwards and completely knocked out. Not consciously, but back on my back. I come forward and I'm holding my face, and as a lot of people know, you get hit in your face and it bleeds. Just your face bleeds. And I'm just bleeding everywhere, all over my face. And I think Kelsey runs up to the house to go get like ice or something.
Yeah.
And Shane and Chris are in the house. And next thing I know, Shane is running down the backyard, just screaming. And he's got a beer bottle in his hand. And he's tearing his ass down the backyard. And Chris is following him, just screaming, "Don't hit her! Don't hit her!" Like, it's just, Shane, don't hit her. And Shane takes that beer bottle and sidearms it, and it misses by like inches. And Chris eventually tackles Shane. Haley's now down here, like holding ice in my face, and it just was like an episode of Jerry Springer. There's just screaming. And we all eventually go back into the house, and you're there. I don't really remember what you're doing, but at one point we all realize we can't find Kelly. We're like, where is she? And she's nowhere to be found. And I think you start looking for her. And eventually, so we're all sitting in the kitchen, just like basically the five of us, me, Kelsey, Chris, Shane, and Haley. And we're like, what just happened here? This is crazy. And eventually, the way the lake house is set up, it's like that great room. The kitchen's open to everything. So we're sitting in the kitchen talking, and eventually we see her come out from the direction of your master bedroom, which was downstairs. And she walks into the kitchen, and she's like opening the fridge down, and she's like, "Well, I'm getting my grape Kool-Aid and I'm getting the fuck out of here." And she grabs this like a pitcher of grape Kool-Aid out of the fridge. And Haley, who says nothing ever, just says, "Yeah, bitch, get your Kool-Aid and get out of here." And I mean, I'm just sitting here watching all of it like, what is happening right now? What is actually happening? So you got Tony and Kim show up, good friends Tony and Kim, and they're like, "We're taking your dad and they're going to stay with us tonight." And y'all left, and we were all just so hot about that you left with her. And we all eventually went to sleep, and it was very, looking back and we can laugh about it, but it was very, very upsetting and very traumatic. We go to bed, and then the next morning Tony comes in and he like wakes us all up, and he's like, "Hey, I'm back with your dad. He really wants to talk to you guys, just the three of you. Why don't you come outside?" And I mean, we were like, okay, we go out. And I don't, again, Dad, me, I feel like I always just black things out to block them off. But I just remember, you were like, "I'm very apologetic. I'm very sorry. She's very sorry." And you like looked at me, you're like, "Are you okay?" And I was just kind of like, "No, I am not okay." And that was that summer.
Yeah.
So that was hard. It was really hard. And, I think what was so sad about all of that is we went from being this unit that other people literally were like, "God, that y'all's family," we would hear that all the time. Like, "We wish we could be in your family. This family is so connected and we were so tight." And That was the first time that another person really, truly, in my opinion, um, had an adverse effect on us as a unit. So that was the summer, and it kind of just went from us wanting to be at the lake every weekend together, where we stopped going. We didn't want to be there. Um, you end up proposing in December of that year, like a week before Chris proposes to me. So I was so pissed off about that. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't get over that. Um you guys get engaged, we get engaged literally like a week or two later. And yeah, I don't know, I'll pause. I don't know what, maybe tell me what you remember that day after that conversation.
I don't know that I remember that much about the conversation. I remember being up all night and thinking about it and what to do. I remember, you're right, Tony and Kim got us and took us over to the house and stayed there. And I mean, I didn't sleep. I felt disconnected. I felt terrible. I said, man, I had I driven over there, I probably would have gotten in the car and driven back home. I didn't have that option. I could have made that, I guess, happen, but I just was in a battle of, well, what do I do? What do I say? I wasn't. I was. I you know you, I wasn't there at the time of arguing. It's like I was going back and forth. I remember going back and forth to the house, and the next thing I know, I get down there, and I don't remember being there because I don't know what the conversation was about or why anything got to that level. Um, and I don't remember if that was the same weekend that Kelsey and I had gotten into it. Um, and I called her out on a couple of things, but it was,
And yeah, you may
yeah,
not have
it
been
was
down there,
it
because I don't remember
it
you
was
being
in
down there. Yeah.
yeah, it was inflamed, as you said. Just, and I'm not making excuses. Nothing makes it right, and I don't really know, like I say, what caused it or why. It should not have come to that for sure. So, um, the only thing and again, I remember coming back. I remember trying to apologize. I don't know that I knew the apology wasn't very effective. I knew that it wasn't resonating. There really wasn't anything that could have been said to make it right, because it just wasn't right.
Yeah.
So, and then me trying to, and I've been in this position, not before, but it's the first time, of just um, trying to figure out what to do and to realize, the emotions of what was going on, and not, like I said, it wasn't that it was an excuse. I just, I wanted things to be better. I know that's a hard thing to get over, and was impossible to get over. And I can't explain, um, why I just did not end it there, other than, once again, trying to overlook something that I thought was a one time instance that just, again, continued with different occurrences of different matters from that point forward.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
it was not, it was not a good deal. It was definitely embarrassing. Not very fatherly of me to, um, put this girl ahead of my children, for sure. So, tough situation.
It was.
That was not good.
No.
And it was very damaging.
Well, we got through the summer. Like I said, you guys ended up getting married in April. That was um that was a hard day. Chris ended up not being there because he had made plans before you guys set a date. And because I was just so not really okay with it, he's like, do I cancel? I was like, no, go. And I ended up having a panic attack at the reception of that wedding. My first and only panic attack. And your therapist at the time was there and came out and said, you're having a panic attack. And everyone to this day, they're like, what, like, why didn't you say anything to your dad? And I said, I remember seeing you that day, walking into that venue you guys had it at. I remember I came and I made a point, like, I got to go see dad and check in with him. And dad, it was like, I could see it in your eyes. I could just see it where you knew. I knew it in my heart, and I could see it in your face that you were like, I shouldn't do this. But yet I don't think you knew how to get out of it. I mean, your family was there, grandma was there, the sisters, everybody was there. But I saw it in your face that day. And I just felt so bad for you because I didn't know what to do. But, it wasn't for me to save you, and so you get through it. And then I remember we were sitting there at the tables. And I think you guys were like, it may have been when you had like your first dance or something. And Dad, it was like a pile of, it just hit me. Like all of a sudden it was like in my mind, it clicked. And I just said like, oh my God, he married her. You know what I mean? Like I was floating through the day and then it just hit like, this just happened. And I literally could not breathe.
Mm.
And so I walked out and, got finally calmed down. And that night, I mean, this is terrible, but family, friends of ours were literally like, well, how long do we give it? Placing bets on how long the marriage was going to last, And I was just like, this is terrible. This is so terrible. So you guys ended up staying married for, that was April of 2011. And Chris and I got married in October of 2011. And then you guys, she was around when we found out we were pregnant with Reese and all that. You guys built a home together. I mean, it was a lot that happened in those 2 years. And then you ultimately called it in November of 2012, which was a month before Reese was born. And I just remember thinking like, thank God. Like it was the best in my mind, selfishly, because I did not want her a part of all of that for us. It was like your first grandchild, my first baby. Like I just was like, I don't want to deal with this person. And I don't know if that had any, I don't even know if that had any bearings on what made you make that final decision to say, I'm done. But, and you pulled it right before we got to a big monumental part of, for our family, I feel like.
Yeah. And again, that's, I liked I didn't realize that that's how you viewed it at the wedding, but you were definitely right. I mean, I knew I was in trouble, and I knew it would have been nice if somebody did save me, because I feel so many times I've tried to save things like this, taken the wrong side of, and that comes really, from from the many sessions of counseling of always trying to fix things and always trying to save things and make things that are bad go good. And that is a trait. And I think we all have those traits. I see them a lot in all of us. Um,
Well, I do think you
Just
thought you
and
could
better
help
yet,
her.
not
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I felt, I did. I think I felt obligated to try to help. And when I realized that that was going to be difficult and a challenge, not that it was a challenge, it was almost very difficult, almost impossible. And I knew it had broken up my family. And so it, with time and with a lot of pain and probably just a lot of inner animosity to myself with regards to that night that you described,
Mm-hmm.
and knowing that I needed to just, walk there.
Mm-hmm.
And there were other times as well prior to that. Just there were plenty of red flags, yellow flags, and I just wanted to see them green.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I was hurt. I was still hurting from the unfolding of, how the previous marriage had gone, um and thought I could fix it, I'm sure. And that that same methodology and behavior, continues on for, you know, a number of years and other relationships.
Yeah.
So
Do
it was a
you
hard thing to let go of.
do you remember calling me from y'all's honeymoon?
Yes. I
You
mean,
were
I was in trouble there.
Oh, you knew it then,
I was
Dad. You
I
said you
was
were like,
beyond myself.
yeah, you were it was so sad. You called and you were like, I made a huge mistake. And I just said, yeah. And you don't have to save it. And you don't have to fix it. And just let it go. I just remember telling you, like, come home. Just come home. And you were like, I'm gonna get up, I'm gonna get on a plane, I'm gonna come home tomorrow. And I'm like, all right, let me know. I'll pick you up. Like, just come home. And then the next day I told Chris, I said, he's coming home. Like, we're gonna fix this. Like, we're gonna fix this. And then the next day you were like, I'm gonna try to see it through. And we had a good conversation. And I think that was when, at that point, I just said, I can't engage in it anymore. I gotta see it, I gotta let it play out. And it did, eventually it did. But yeah, it was hard. And I will say that, as a person, I never saw her as a bad person. I felt sorry for her. I think she had problems, I'm not going to sit here and share all of what that was, but she did. And so there was always this thing where it was like, I knew she meant well, like, it wasn't a lack of respect for any of us kids or a lack of respect for you. She just had problems, and they didn't need to be ours. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. But we got through it, Dad.
Yep. We did. Thank God.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Hmm.
See, you did it. You could do it.
I couldn't MacGyver that one.
No, but um takeaways from that whole thing. Takeaway is now just I don't know, is there are always lessons you can take, right? And even if it's what not to do, or just keep, I guess what I come from that is um what I wish I had done. Yeah, I wish I had said that day, even if it was just, I mean, I know I said it before that, why are you doing this? You don't need to do this. But I wish that day I had just said, let's just go. Like, I got my car. Let's just ride out of here, you know? But
Mhm. Mhm.
but
Yeah.
we got through it. We're here now. And I got a good little scar on my face, Dad, to
Mhm.
show how tough I am.
Yep.
This is funny though. When I was telling Clint G about it when it happened, like later, it was like the that week or whatever, and he was like, "I'm so mad at you." And I'm like, "Why?" And he goes, "I can't believe you didn't knock her ass out." He was like so disappointed in me. He's like, "I can't believe you just fell over." And I'm like, "I was drunk and I was completely blindsided." But to add a little humor to it, I let my friend down because he's like, "How did you not just, you had nothing?" I'm like, "I had nothing. I got nothing."
Hmm.
Did not handle that. So, um,
No, I don't think I would have ever dreamed in my entire life that I would have seen that happen, but that shit did happen. So,
it did happen. It was like an episode of Jerry
mhm.
Springer, Dad. And the good news
Yeah.
is Shane did not hit her. Nobody went to jail that night. Oh man. All right. Well, what else, Padre? You may have to go have a
I
glass of wine now.
man, I don't know. That's a tough one. That's hard. That is definitely a time I tried to just erase from my mind and don't even really put it on the the time log or the history other than it did happen. So,
Well, there was also
nothing I'm proud of.
good stuff. That I think that's why you don't erase it because again, that was 2012 was a good year in the sense Shane and Haley got um, married in May of 2012. I found out that I was pregnant with Reese in April of 2012,
Mhm.
and we had a really good year of, well, 6 months, I should say, of just lots of time with family and celebrating because of those. We came out of Chris and I's wedding rolled right into Shane and Haley got engaged. Um, when did they get engaged? Like March of 11? No,
That could have been. It was kind of chilly. That could have been.
yeah, maybe a little earlier than that. Anyways, it was a fun time in our family. We had a lot going on. Kelsey had moved back from Florida. She was attending TCU. So we were all together. I mean, sidebar, like living at the condo, we spent um as a threesome, as the three siblings with obviously with Haley and Chris in tow, we were a very tight unit. We spent a lot of time together. We were having just a lot of fun living in Dallas to get together as a family again and going through some big things in life all in
Mhm.
the same place, and that was a lot of fun. We definitely enjoyed that, and a lot of good stories of things that happened at that time too. um
For sure.
Fun events and whatnot. But yeah, so we rolled out of Chris and I getting married into Shane and Haley getting married in May, finding out about Reese coming, and then Reese being born, first grandchild in December of 2012. And uh, you and Kelsey were the first people to meet Reese, and you were definitely, you know, world's best grandpa. You were so
Oh,
excited
yeah.
about that
I
grandbaby.
know. I would show up at any time expecting her to jump up and get her out of bed and hold her, right?
Oh, you wanted her all the time.
All the time.
All the
Yep.
time. And I was such a schedule. I was so crazy about the schedule. And, I followed that baby wise. And you would come on your way home from work every day at like 5:30. You'd show up and I'd either be pumping or I had just put her down, and you'd be like, where's the baby? And I say, well, she's sleeping, Dad. Well, I'm going to go get her. I'm like, no, you're not. So then you get so mad at me, like, well, why not? I said, because we're on a schedule here, Dad. We're on a schedule. And so you would stay, and that's probably when I would pump, and you'd give me a hard time, be like, why don't you go in your room and do that? Because remember, I would just walk around with that pump on, and you were like, oh my God. I had no shame. I'd walk around. I didn't care. And, then you'd wait, and then you'd hear her cry, and you just look at me and be like, can I go now? And I'd say, yes. And you'd take off, and I'd say, make sure you're like, yeah. Like you change the diaper and clean her up. And I mean, that was probably every night unless you couldn't be there until we ended up moving.
Yeah.
Back to media. Yeah.
Yeah.
So she was a good baby.
She was. Yes, she was.
Best
she
baby.
was more difficult once she got her back to media. She was a little stinker there. Not that she was a bad baby. She didn't think much of Peepaw at that time.
Well, she went through that phase, Dad, where she didn't like men.
Yep, I know.
At all. It wasn't just you. But she would not even let you be in the room with her.
I know.
And the family joke was like, it was karma coming back for you. Poor Peepaw.
Yeah. I remember taking her there by that school on
right there on State Street.
Putting her in that swing, and she got that swing going, and I just pushed her as hard as I could.
She loved that swing.
Oh, I know. She learned to love it too, because I wasn't going to let her get out of it. She seemed happy. She was going to stay there a while.
Yeah, so. She liked that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Daddy-O.
Yes, honey.
I love you so much.
I love you. Thank you for that. Thank you for not letting me go.
Never.
And holding me tight. So I appreciate that.
You're stuck with me. We're stuck together.
Mm-hmm.
You're the
I'm thankful.
You're the click in my pod, Dad.
I'm thankful. That's right.
When we were letting all others down, you and I always have each other. So that's the one thing we got. We got that going on for sure.
It's a good thing.
That's a good thing. Well, I'm gonna. Did you vote early? By the way,
I did. Yep, we got it done right after we got back from Cabo. So,
well, good for you. I'll be at the polls. I'll be at the polls tomorrow. So,
there you go.
That's right. All right. Well, episode 15.
That's amazing. That's awesome.
We did it. We did it. And, yeah, we got to conquer one more big time period before we get to the good stuff. I feel like this is the good stuff now. No?
This last 3 minutes. Yes, it is. The first 20 and the last 3. Yes.
Oh,
yes.
You survived. All right. Go get yourself. Did you eat dinner already?
Nope. Sweet potato and chicken.
Ooh, doggy.
Mm-hmm.
I made a great salad tonight. Good salad. Trying to be healthy. Trying to get back on track.
Awesome.
So, yeah. By the way,
awesome.
Did I tell you yesterday that we won the hockey tournament?
Yep. Congrats to Park on that one. Yeah.
Yeah. My little Bubba. He's at a sleepover tonight at the coach's house. Wow. One of the coach's house. Coach George.
They don't have school tomorrow?
Election day. Schools are closed.
Oh, that's right. Holiday.
And they had a half day today. So these kids are never in school. It's a pain in my ass.
Yeah, that's what I've seen too here. That they were prepping the school, getting things set up, and then tomorrow it's closed. So
yeah, all good though.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
honey.
I love you.
Have a good night. Love you too.
I'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Yep.
Thank you for tuning in today. With so many podcasts out there, we are grateful you chose to spend your time with us.
And we'd love to hear from you. So send us your questions, comments, and feedback to info@twoclicksinapod.com, and we might feature your message in a future episode.
Also, don't forget to follow us on social and head over to our YouTube channel where you can watch the full episode live and in living color. You can find us at 2 Clicks in a Pod. That's 2, as in the number, clicks in a pod.
Well, James, until next time, love you.
Love you too, Daddy.